Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for choosing to spend some time with us, the Sargento family. We know folks are joining us from across the country, coast to coast, around the U.S., and we are so grateful for your time this evening. We know how precious time is, especially during these times. So we're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to learn some new things together. Who doesn't love cheese, right? We are so excited for what's about to unfold. My name is Portia Young, and I'm the Director of PR at Sargento, and I've been part of the Sargento family for about 8 years now. We're gathered this evening so we can learn how to make appealing, professional-grade cheese boards. Now, of course, we want to share these on social media because we do everything for the gram, right? But also, we want to wow our families and friends. And I'm a mom, and Mother's Day is coming up, so you might learn a new skill to impress mom this weekend. So for sure, that's what we're going to do tonight. Before we get started, I do have a couple of housekeeping items to share with you. First, we have questions. I'm sure you have questions for the event. Feel free to just post them in the chat, and we'll do our best to try to answer them either during the show or at the end of the show. Second, you are welcome to keep your video on. We'd love to see your faces, but we understand sometimes with COVID consciousness, we understand everybody's got like house pants on or, whatever. So keep your video on if you so choose, no pressure, but please keep your microphones muted so that there won't be any distractions for our presenters. So we all learned how to mute during COVID. Lastly, we're going to be spotlighting some featured guests during the show. So you'll be able to keep an eye on our chef as we build our Sargento cheese boards today. So we're hoping one day to see everybody here in person. That is the goal. But one major benefit, again, of this virtual world is that we are all joined from around the United States. So big shout out to everybody who is on with us tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And put in the chat where you're coming from because we would love to know who's joining us this evening. Okay, if we can see some of those in the chat, that's awesome. Just chat where you're from. I'm going to open up the chat box myself. Oh, Port Washington, shout out to Wisconsin. Milwaukee, love seeing you. Germantown, this is like my hood. I am from the Milwaukee area. I live in Mequon, Wisconsin, a little suburb. And Sargento is just about 45 minutes up the road in Plymouth, Wisconsin. That's where we're headquartered. Ooh, Modesto, California. I've been there a couple times. De Pere, Wisconsin. Ooh, Pennsylvania. I have a friend who lives in Wilkes-Barre. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We again appreciate your time. This is awesome. Okay, who is ready to start? But first, before we get that, we're going to definitely check in with our guests. I want to show you who's joining us from the Sargento family this evening, who's going to help us build our cheese boards this evening. We have Chef Tony Benedict. He is our culinary expert at Sargento, and Sargento has had the pleasure of having Tony be our chef for the past 15 years. He was a chef instructor at the New England Culinary Institute in Vermont. He's worked in many hotels, resorts, independent restaurants, you name it. He's the one who put together our shopping list. And when you see Chef Tony, he's coming to you from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. That's where we have our technical center and our culinary kitchen. Next, we have Kyle Cole, who is one of our corporate cheese graters. Now, it's not a cheese grater, it's a cheese grater. That's how we roll in Wisconsin. We are the only state in the nation to have a licensed cheese grater program, because of course, we're the dairy state. So Kyle basically knows everything you need to know about cheese, and that's why we love having him as part of the Sargento family. We also have Erin Gramza, who is on our innovation team. She's a food scientist who helps with the research and development of our products. And Erin is with us this evening to explain what goes into creating our products. And finally, last but not least, we have Michelle Birschbach, who's on our marketing team, and she gathers consumer insights. So she's gonna help us make sure that we always keep you in mind when we create our wonderful products. She's gonna tell us why cheese boards are so popular right now. Okay, so we hope you have all your ingredients out and ready to go. Chef Tony used a fancy word for that, and I'll definitely kick it to him now because without further ado, here's Chef Tony. Chef Tony, you use that fancy French word when you say you got to have everything ready. What is that?
I will. It's called mise en place. It literally means everything in its place and a place for everything. So all the years of working in restaurants, you staged your items, you have ready. So at no point do you run out and everything's ready to go. So there's no emergencies. And that's what we've done here today. We've staged everything. We've got our ingredients together. And then just like you would do at home when you build your own cheese board, meat and cheese board, you're going to have your components so you don't have to rush through it. You can artfully think about how you want to design your next cheese and meat board. And the one that we're going to do today features Sargento's aged Parmesan, our aged cheddar, and our aged Gouda. And we'll be pairing that with some prosciutto, some calabrese salami, some peppered salami, and some dried coppa. So as we go along and build the board, it'll come back and forth to me, and I'll show you the fundamentals of what I think a good board should look like, how to plan for the number of people that you're entertaining. And then as we get towards the end, we'll be finishing off with the other components that I have here ready today.
Oh, that's awesome. So you had all the little plates. I even saw you had sticky notes. That's how prepared you are, Chef Tony.
Thank you.
All right. So Chef, where and how did charcuterie begin?
Oh, that is a great question. In all my years of hotels and restaurants and school, it was a commonplace thing. Charcuterie literally means cooked flesh, from the French words char and cuit. So cuit being the root word of the root word cuisine or culinary. It really came about 500 years ago. If you think about it, there was no refrigeration back then. So as somebody would have the hogs and butcher these things and use the meat, they wanted a way to utilize the entire animal without wasting anything. And at that point, charcuterie items like that were kind of like on the peasant level. So people had to use everything and not waste anything. So again, that was like 500 years ago. But the act and the process of dry curing and salting these different kind of meats goes back way back before then, even to the Roman times, where there's evidence that they would make their own prosciutto about 6,000 years ago. So now you fast forward to today with the social media craze, and especially with the pandemic this last year, boards, charcuterie boards, and everything like that has gone crazy, where people are really maximizing their board, trying to make it more creative than the other person. But in the end, it's about great tasting food, sampling little bites, and exploring. So as we move along today, again, I'll walk through the fundamentals of what I build with and why, and hopefully in the end that you could do the same thing.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, yeah, I studied French in college and I did not know that. So goes to show how much I actually study. Okay, Chef, how should we be starting our charcuterie boards, our Sargento cheese boards today?
Okay, let's start with the board itself. The board I have here is roughly about 16 inches square. It all starts with the number of people that you want to work with or entertain. It could be as little as a date night where you have enough just for 2 people, or it could be for a party of 20. So you want to think about the total ounces that each person is going to eat to be roughly about 1 to 2 ounces of the different items. So the more items you have, you want to prepare less of that. Remember, all the items that are on your board are very flavorful, sometimes very fatty, so they can be very filling. So you don't want to overdo it. So with that, like I said, I have my mise en place ready. I've got 4 different kinds of meats. I've got the 3 cheeses. Then I think about the different components that I want to pair with them. If you think about what's on the charcuterie board, it's really a lot of little tasting items that you're going to be snacking with, maybe building like little mini sandwiches. So you want to have a base, like a crouton or a crostini or a cracker, and then your meat item, then your cheese. And with that, you want to think of some balancing flavors, some acidic items, like your pickled vegetables, olives, your cornichons, and then some complementary flavors like honey, definitely some mustards, and some relishes. So if you go back 500 years, the board started out as maybe they go on a picnic and they'd have their different kind of meats, a little bit of dry cheese, like a Parmesan, maybe a baguette, and a bottle of wine, all perfectly cured, shelf stable, so there's no need to worry about refrigeration. And then from there, it kind of grew where the boards got more expansive, more elaborate, and then it became about presentations.
All right, Chef, we have a question from Elizabeth, and she says, how many cheese per person? How many ounces per person?
Like I said, the total of the cheese and the meat, you want to think about 1 to 2 ounces. If this is an appetizer, if this is pre-dinner where you're just nibbling and snacking, about 1 to 2 ounces. But if this were a main course where there's nothing else before or after this, you can go ahead and double that to maybe 3 to 4 per item.
Awesome. All right. So while you're setting up the board, Chef Tony, everybody's going to be able to see Chef Tony working in the kitchen while we're chatting tonight. So we're going to go to our next guest. Keep at it, Chef Tony. We're going to check in with you in just about a second. So We're going to bring in Kyle Call, who again is licensed by the state of Wisconsin. His specialty is American style cheeses, such as cheddar and Colby, and he also has a Swiss license. So welcome, Kyle.
Good evening. Thank you for the introduction, Portia.
Yes.
I am one of the corporate cheese graders here at Sargento. As a cheese grader, I basically eat cheese for a living. It's a pretty good gig. I have been part of the Sargento family for 11 years, and I obtained my first license through the state of Wisconsin to grade cheese back in 2011. You know, Sargento, we've been making cheese easier to eat for the average consumer since our company started back in 1953. We were one of the first companies to introduce prepackaged sliced and shredded cheese. Traditionally, cheese is made in large blocks, like 20 or 40-pound blocks. And I don't know about you, but I don't have room in my refrigerator for a large 40-pound block. So that's where Sargento has been making eating cheese a lot more convenient for 65 plus years. I do have a license for cheddar and Swiss. However, here at Sargento, we actually package over 100 different kinds of cheeses. So I have to be well-versed in all of them. Not only am I a subject matter expert on how a cheese should taste and how it should appear in a package when it reaches an end consumer such as yourself, but I also have to know, will that cheese slice, stick, or shred? Not all cheeses will function in every application, and that's where cheese graders are actually utilized here at Sargento. It's pretty easy for me to say that I love my job. I've been with the company 11 years, and I haven't worked a day yet. And to this point, I'm very appreciative of everything that Sargento has allowed me to do and provide me to expand in my career.
Oh, that's awesome, Kyle. Yes, Kyle, I've actually, every time Kyle sees me coming in the hallway, he probably runs from me because I either get him to do a camera or ask him about a cheese. So Kyle sits in our quality department. And again, you know exactly what a cheddar should taste like. You know what a Parmesan should taste like. You know what Colby should taste like. So tell us what is the taste that we're looking for when we think about eating a good quality cheese.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into that, Portia. One thing I do want to mention is I have had the opportunity to actually judge in quite a few national competitions around the country, which is a great opportunity. And usually a few questions come up either at competitions by the general public or when I've done other presentations here in the Sheboygan County area in Wisconsin. The first one is, you know, what's the oldest cheese I've ever had? In my response so far, the oldest cheese I've had has been a 14-year-old cheddar. My little cousin, he's quite surprised because he's like, well, that's older than me. And I said, it helps put it in perspective how old that one piece of cheese was. The second question that I get asked, because quite often people shy away from cheeses like blue cheese, brie, or camembert, cheeses that are ripened with yeasts or molds. However, I'm not afraid of those. I'm not turned off by them. So one of the questions is, you know, Kyle, what's one of the weirdest cheeses you have ever had? And my response is the most unique cheese that I've had to date. I actually had the privilege and opportunity to try a donkey milk cheese at a competition a few years ago. That's as far as I'm going to go with that one. And Sargento does not package any donkey milk products. My favorite cheese at Sargento is a nice aged cheddar. Mm-hmm. First started with Sargento, I was a fan of mozzarella. You have mozzarella on everything, right? You have mozzarella in your pizzas. You have mozzarella sticks you can get in a restaurant. You have string cheese. I think over the years of grading so many different kinds of cheeses, I just acquired a taste for the aged cheddar, and or my mentors might have had a factor in that. To help put that in perspective, in a year, a cheese grader like myself, I might look at about 10,000 different samples of cheese. So it's a little bit of cheese we look at. I do have a license and I know what a mild cheddar, medium cheddar, or sharp cheddar should taste like, but I also know which cheddars to age as well. Here at Sargento, we don't just grab any mild cheddar and hold on to it for 4, 6, or 8 months. There's certain recipes and very specific flavor profiles that we're looking for, and those are the cheeses that we set to the side and age. Tonight, Chef Tony, you heard him, he's using a white aged cheddar. It's one of our slices. That cheese has been hand selected and cured for a little less than 10 months. We use an aging program to help develop the flavor of our cheeses. And not only the flavor will be impacted by the aging, but you'll also notice in the texture of the cheese, the older it gets, a little more brittle or crumbly that cheese will be. And that's showing off the aging process of our natural cheeses. there's no substitute for time and there's no shortcuts taken with it. I think Chef has 3 other cheeses. I believe he's using a provolone slice, which is also a very popular item. Provolone will have a nice, sweet, mild flavor. The provolone slice he has a little bit of smoke added to it. And provolone actually becomes a flavor profile of what we call piquant as it ages. There's a lipase enzyme that's added to the milk during the manufacture, and that flavor becomes more pronounced as provolone gets older. Another cheese that Chef Tony is using is Parmesan, which is going to have a nice aged nutty flavor. Might even have a slight fruity or pineapple notes with it. And Parmesan really just gets more intense with age. And then finally, I think one of the last cheeses that Chef Tony is using is an aged Gouda slice, and that will have a nice sweet nutty flavor to it.
I'm getting hungry, Kyle. Thank you. I always love seeing Kyle because I'm like, hey, can you get me some of that Parmesan that I love? And sometimes he has it in his pocket. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Thank you, Kyle. All right. We're going to check back in with Chef Tony, see how the board is coming together. You've been able to see them up there at your screen. And now, Chef, wow, it looks amazing. How'd you do that in just that short amount of time?
Well, I had everything ready to go, like everything in little crocks. And again, once I look at the board, I want to put the cheeses down first and kind of position the little landing zones for the items that go together. For example, the Parmesan is a natural to go with the prosciutto, and with that, a little fresh little honey that we'll be tasting with it. So as I put my blocks down, I'm starting to think about where do I lay the smaller pieces of cheese? And they usually drift off of that. It's like a natural cascading effect. From the cheddar here, you can see little triangles coming off. The Gouda, I've got like a little staircase built there. I've got a little supporting little clusters of grapes in the background. Again, that adds a little bit of color. And then I'll add a little tiny squares of the Gouda as I go along. And then I've got the salamis down here. And then I'll have the black peppered salami in the corner. And again, as I build this, I'm thinking from the outside in with larger items first, and then filling them in as we go along further. I'll finish with the smaller items, the dried fruit, the crusty items, the baguettes and the crackers, that kind of thing. And again, if you're doing this ahead, you can build the cheese and meat components separately, keep it refrigerated, and then when you need to, pull it out, go back to your crackers and finish it, and then garnish off with your fresh herbs and your little items like your nuts and your fresh fruit and herbs.
Okay, so Chef Tony, some people are still wanting to know just how many ounces is the recommended for the cheese. So when we say, you should use this many slices, what is about 1 to 2 ounces of cheese?
So if you look at our retail slice, that's roughly about maybe 0.6 to 0.75 ounces. So roughly a good slice of cheese would be enough, maybe one and a half slices. And okay, add on top of that same amount of meat, like the prosciutto, that would be per item. So one person would have that of the Gouda with the salami, of the Parmesan with the prosciutto, of the cheddar, so on and so forth.
Okay. And then, yes, as you see, Chef Tony has some blocks of cheese. We do not sell those as retail products. That's one of the perks of being the chef in the kitchen. Yep. But you can see some of our retail products. We do have those. Everything that he's working with, you can get at the store. So, right. All right. And yes, we got somebody who's talking about Kyle. We're a little Wisconsin here. So yes, he did say Gouda. Some people say Gouda, but that's the Wisconsin. What can we say? All right. Thank you, Chef Tony. We're going to keep checking back in with you as you're building your board. And next time we'll see how you're making those little rosettes of meat and slices of cheese.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now we're going to go to Erin Gramza, who again is on our innovation team. And she's going to share more on how we come up with our products at Sargento. So Erin, take it away.
Yeah, hi, Portia. Thank you so much. Before I begin, I'd love for everyone to chat in what their favorite Sargento product is. I'd love to see what's out there.
Okay, let's see if we have anybody in the chat. I can tell you that mine is the original balance breaks that we have. And my kids right now, my little girl is loving this one. And I know, yes, this seems like a shameless plug, but actually this was in my refrigerator. It's our new balance break cheese and crackers. She loves the Triscuit one, which she never ate a Triscuit in her life before, but yet she's eating this one. So
yeah, hey, when you make it mini and pair it with cheese, they'll eat anything. All right. I saw some balance breaks, string cheese, aged reserve Parmesan. That's a great one. You really can't go wrong. Pepper jack, our pepper jack is really well known, a really great level of heat. Um, you know, Portia, you mentioned balance breaks. I also saw it a little bit in the chat for some others too.
Yeah.
You know, when we develop new products, it can really literally take years to develop new products and bring them to the grocery store. Balance breaks took in many different iterations, 6 to 7 years. We started with an idea, we thought we had something, it wasn't quite right. We didn't think it was quite ready. We actually put that idea on the shelf for a little bit, and then came back to it and re-looked at it with fresh eyes and really kind of approached it a little bit differently, came up with that great yin and yang package, right? The balance of sweet and salty and savory, and then the balance of textures, the crunchy nuts, the chewy cranberries or the chewy fruits, the crunchy, parts too. And, it's a lot like the charcuterie boards that we're building today, right? It's all about the different textures, complementary flavors, little bites, little bits. I've even heard that some people take those balance breaks and put them on a salad. And it's like a little salad topper, right? You don't have to pack all of the different components to have kind of a nice, fresh, fancy salad. So, people come up with some great ways to use our products that sometimes we're not even aware of when we design them. Just like a recording artist, though, no one wants to be a one-hit wonder. Balance breaks was a great innovation. Years ago. We keep on innovating with that product line, but we also really want to be coming out with new products, innovative products to really meet the needs of our consumers, kind of consistently. So we're constantly, looking at trends, reinventing things, taking ideas to consumers, taking ideas in, and, really trying to bring products to market that are meaningful and consumers love.
Yeah. So Erin, how long have you been part of the Sargento family?
Yeah, so I started a day after Kyle, I think we determined. So I'm coming up on 11 years as well. I came to Sargento because previously I had worked at a large publicly traded company. It was, a great place to start out, but I really wanted to feel like more of a member of a family. And Sargento has always talked about that. And I found it to be so, so true. I'm not like a number here. I love the team that I work with. I love what I do. And I love, all of the people that I get to work with every day.
Well, that's awesome. So Maggie writes, and she said, I did Sargento individually wrapped package product for a baby shower in early days of social distancing for a tailgate baby shower, and they were the fave. So thank you, Maggie. A tailgate, you must be from Wisconsin. We would tailgate at the ballet in Wisconsin if we could, right?
That's awesome.
Thank you so much. So Erin, before you go, I just want to give a shout out. We're moms of girls, 2 little girls. Your girls are so adorable.
Thank you.
What are their favorite Sargento products?
Yeah, so my 8-year-old loves our sliced provolone. It's her favorite for grilled cheese. And then my 5-year-old loves the new creamery cheddar shreds. They're just out in the market. They're really, full of rich flavor. They have an amazing melt. It really sounds like I'm putting in a shameless product plug, but I'm not. They really are her favorite. And she calls it Miss Debbie's cheese after, the woman who really worked to develop that product and bring that product to life. So that's super cute, right? Miss Debbie has her own cheese, and, that's what my 5-year-old loves.
Oh, see the perks of being a daughter of somebody on the innovation team in R&D. All right. Thank you, Erin. Thank you for your story. Okay, we're going to go back to Chef Tony. He's been cooking away. Well, I guess not really cooking, but he's definitely in the kitchen. So Chef Tony, how's the board coming together? I'm like salivating right now.
It's coming together great. As you can see, the areas are getting filled in. I'm adding the copa. I've added the calabrese salami. I've kind of folded it over, and I made like little rosettes just to kind of demo, I folded the bottom half, and then I want a little bit of height on the board too. So as I go along, I don't want the whole thing kind of flat. That's why I built up the little layers on the cheese here, the different dimensions, different shapes, different textures. The same thing with the provolone in the corner. The great thing about this provolone, it's very similar to prosciutto. It's paper thin, so it allows me to just delicately fold it. I just cut the slice in half, just barely fold it and lay it on its side. And the weight of it will hold it down. And again, it's not just about how this looks, it's about how it's gonna not only taste, but also how the customer or your guest will perceive it. So being nice and thin, it'll almost melt in your mouth. The same thing with the prosciutto. So you want all these flavors to come through, but at the same time, you want to be visually very appealing. And then again, you want it to kind of, make sense, all the components together. So like I said, as we finish up a little bit, we're going to start thinking about adding the fresh fruit, some of the bread items, and the very last, we'll go back, take one final look to see if everything's in its place. I've got my Parmesan with the prosciutto next to the honey. You want to create little zones that your customer or guest can look over and just know that these items go together. So I think we're in a good spot, and we'll check back in a little bit.
Okay, Chef Tony, I'm going to put you on the spot because you told me a great story
Yep.
the other day when we were together. You said that you did some stuff backstage. You cooked for Van Halen.
I did. I was working at the Rattlesnake Club in Detroit, Michigan, and through the chef owner, his agent, whatever, somehow we've got to set up a 6-course meal to cook backstage after a concert at the Pontiac Silverdome. So it was the funniest thing. It was a lot of work. It was like catering. So you had to go get all this food ready. There was a kitchen there, and the room was a huge room, and it was a giant table right in the middle of it. There was a big buffet, ice sculptures, loud music blasting, tons of people. And then there's a place setting for 4. And there's Sammy Hagar, Eddie Van Halen, Michael Van Halen, or Michael Anthony, and Alex Van Halen. And I'll never forget, it was really cool. It was very strange, after a concert to be able to do that, but I never really understood the final answer why we were able to do that, but it was a lot of fun.
Hey, that's something you don't forget.
Right.
Few people could say they cooked for Van Halen, especially Eddie Van Halen, one of the greatest guitarists that ever played. All right. Thank you, Chef. We're going to come back to you. Now we're going to turn things over to Michelle Birchbox, who again is on our marketing team. And she's going to tell us why what we're doing tonight together is so popular right now. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, Portia. Thanks for having me tonight. It's so fun to see this coming together. Tony, you're making an amazing creation there. I wish I could see what everyone's making at home too. So before we jump into some of the reasons why charcuterie is just so popular right now, I thought it might be fun to do a little trivia. So you're going to see a question pop up on your screen, I do believe. And the question that I have for you is, by how much did the idea of cheese boards grow in popularity last year? Did it grow by 4%, 5%, or 8%? Let's see what people think.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, look at these folks. We got some smart ones here.
We got some smart folks here. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So the majority of you got it. It absolutely is. It's 8%. So, those kinds of stats just show how much interest there is in this area right now. And it's not just about charcuterie actually, but it's part of a larger trend that we've seen really growing in popularity for quite some time. And that's the popularity of snacking foods in general. So whether it's healthier and wholesome snacks or more indulgent snacks, we're really seeing a lot of different snack items on the rise. Over the last year, a lot of people were looking for ways to find a little bit of comfort. And then there was a point throughout the year when folks also realized, they needed to balance out a little bit too, and turned back to some healthier snacks. And it's interesting because it's not necessarily that folks are snacking more often than they used to, but really it's about using snack foods in new and different ways than they had been before. So it's pretty common now for people to grab a few different snack items and kind of put them together to create a meal or to create something to satisfy them and hold them over till the next meal. So maybe it's like grabbing a yogurt and a cheese stick with some fruit or crackers, putting all those things together and calling it lunch. So those new and different ways are really working to help those items grow.
Awesome. So Michelle, Why
Yeah.
do you think charcuterie boards are so hot right now?
Well, there's quite a number of reasons, really. And one of them is that they play off of something that younger consumers really love, specifically millennials and Gen Z consumers. And that's the idea of just new flavors and using snacking to bring new flavors into their repertoire. It also gives them just a great chance to customize and eat the things that, to customize an option for whoever they're with, whether they're with one other person or 4 or 14, right? They can have something for everyone and something that everyone's going to love. So that idea of variation, as we're seeing with the creation that Chef Tony is putting together, right? There's just so many different options that you can put together. And it's not just about variation in flavor, but also in texture. So the crunchy crackers or the chewy bread, along with the softer cheeses and the chewy meats, throw in some spreads or some mustards, things like that. You really get a ton of variation in terms of texture as well as flavor that people just really love to enjoy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we've
So-
certainly seen over the last year too, people are just looking for a way to, plus up their eating experience a little bit. Why shouldn't a Thursday night be a really fun snack, right?
Exactly. And it's fun, something you can do with family. So it's something that's like a shared experience.
Absolutely.
So with that, we'll talk about your experience. How long you been part of the Sargento family, Michelle?
Just about 12 years. Yeah. And I've, much like Erin and Kyle, have loved all of it, really. I've had the opportunity to work within Insights for that time. And what I really love about the position that I have is the ability to get behind the why people are doing the things that they're doing, and then using that information to really guide our business decisions, guide those products that we bring forward so that they're spot on when we bring them to market for people.
Well, that is awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. Loved your insights, no pun intended. I know.
Thanks.
We were telling dad jokes before you guys all joined. So thank you so much, Michelle. All right. So we're going to check in with Chef Tony one last time. And we're getting in the chat, Chef Tony. People would like to see how you make those fancy rosettes. We know you're like at the pro level. We gotta bring it down to maybe like beginner.
Well, okay. So I've got a larger salami here. It's very thin. One of the slices is a little bit thick. So basically, if you've ever made a marzipan rose out of sugar or something like that, or molded it, you want to start with the center. So I'm just folding the salami in half and then making a little cone to form the center. And if I can, I'll try to peel the outside of it so it faces down a little bit.
Oh, that's
And
like a cake.
Yeah,
like
then
a
I'll,
cake decorator.
exactly. Then this is the thicker one that's giving me a little trouble. So then I'll start another one. I'll wrap it around where that seam was, if that would stay in shape. And then the next one, again, maybe crimp it and fold over that last seam. And then finally, one last one. This one I'll have to use a little toothpick that nobody will really see. But if I could just tuck it in there and grab a pick and maybe go all the way through it. And usually when you make a little rosette like this, it'll be right in the center of something where you won't see the toothpick in there or cover that up a little bit. But that's basically it. And again, if it's really thin, it's super easy. And again, if you had a lot of other salami around it, it's a nice little focal point.
That's wonderful. Could you do that with one of our provolone slices?
Sure.
Because they're
absolutely.
circular.
Yep. And these are already cut in half. So yeah, I could easily do that. Let's see if I'll try and make one here. This is much easier. It's very soft, like almost like melting, like sugary. Yeah, this will be beautiful because I could bend this outside edge over a little bit to make it look more like a flower. And again, keep wrapping.
What do you know? Hey, maybe if I'll do that, my kids will actually like eat the food I put in front of them.
There you go. And this could be the perfect little centerpiece for the provolone that's in the corner.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I'll tuck that in, bend this over, and kind of stick it right there.
Oh, that's
then
beautiful.
With that, I've got a little bit of fruit. I've had a little cantaloupe that I peeled back and cut into a little section. I quickly just do a little slice on it when it was like together like this. Get that off there. Then I'll pat it down a little bit with my hand, do a little fan. So now I want to look at where I want to put this on the board. And I'll probably go right in between the parm and the prosciutto. I'll
Is
just
that
pick up.
cantaloupe?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'll pick that up like that
all
and
right.
just kind of lay that in so it falls in nice shape. So the idea of it is that it stays all in the same pattern that you just cut it. So again, the melon goes great with the Parmesan and the prosciutto. And then I'll finish up with a little bit of fresh pear for a little contrast in here, for brightness.
Okay, and then you slice those and you kind of fan those out too.
Exactly. I cut the pear in half, cut that in quarter, little thin slices, and set it right there. So again, I'm always looking at the height and the texture and make sure my colors are balanced. I added some roasted red peppers in here to kind of break things up. Added some fresh blackberries here against the cheddar, that nice little color contrast. Then I finished off with putting my crackers in, my baguettes, my little naan breads in the corner. Then the very last things, the smallest stuff, I'll have a little herb garnish tucked in, a little fresh thyme, a little fresh basil over here. And then the very last little things, I've got some almonds that kind of fit in. Again, I'm looking for color contrast. Probably a little pile right here would work.
Oh, that
And
looks
pistachios
nice.
in shell are always a nice little complimentary thing to crunch on. So as your guests are eating the fruit items, they could pick up a piece, the pear, apples, whatever it is. They're going to use that in between bites. But overall, they're going to take the bread component, the meat, the cheese, the condiment, build a little bite taster, move on, cleanse their palate, and try something new and exciting and different. So that's basically all the components that we have on the board. Again, we've represented our provolone, our cheddar, our Gouda, the Parmesan, and the 4 different meats. And again, I forgot to mention the marinated fresh mozzarella with a little olive oil, red chili flake, and basil. And then the contrasting little flavors, we got roasted red peppers, and an olive tapenade, marinated artichokes, whole grain mustard, little fig jam, and fresh honey for the Parmesan cheese.
Yep, and that's the thing. You can make it as elaborate as you want. You can make it as fancy you want. You can make it dressed down. You can dress it up. This looks amazing, Chef Tony. Thank you so much for sharing your skills with us. Now, again, folks, don't worry if yours looks like an episode of Nailed It. It doesn't matter. We're just trying to have some fun this evening, and you can practice before the big day on Sunday, which of course is Mother's Day. Again, if your board is made and done, please share it on Instagram and tag us at Sargento Family. You can also use our hashtag Sargento Family, hashtag charcuterie, or hashtag cheese board. So share it on Instagram. We'd love to see it no matter what. Where is no judgment. This is a judgment-free zone. We're just here to have fun and learn new things. And that's kind of the approach that we take at Sargento. We love to have fun. We love to try new things. And we really like to be part of the Sargento family. So thank you, Chef Tony.
Thank you.
And I'm seeing everybody. Everybody's waving in. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Before you go, please stay connected with us. You can follow us on LinkedIn. You can also follow us on Instagram at Sargento Family. Again, we tell stories on those channels, and definitely visit our career site. If you definitely are looking for a change or you just want to stay connected with us, you can join our talent community, and hopefully the right opportunity will come along and we will definitely send you job alerts through there. So visit our career site, careers.sargento.com. You can also, again, check us out on LinkedIn and on Instagram. We want to give a big thank you to our participants this evening. Thank you for your time, most of all. Thank you to Milwaukee, our partner, who helped us put on this wonderful Small Bites event. Thank you to our presenters, our members of the Sargento family. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you again for coming all around coast to coast. And again, if you want to stay tuned, we still got about, some time left. If you want to have some questions and kind of chat with us, we definitely want to see if you can put those in the chat, and we'll try to do our best to answer them. So we'd love to, again, see all your pictures on social media. Share those with us. Anybody have any questions? Because we can definitely stick around.
We had a question from the chat from earlier who someone was asking, should you pull the cheese a little early before you start plating in order to let it soften it all?
Okay, Chef Tony.
Yeah, Definitely. If you think you can build the board quick enough, I mean, the general rule is to pull your cheese about a half hour before you're going to serve it. So it gets up to room temperature, about 50 degrees. Again, if the cheese is very thin, like the provolone and the cheddar that I sliced up, it'll soften up very quickly. But if you build a board that has more chunk cheese and you're going to serve it kind of like a knife where they take off little bits at a time, definitely a half hour, 45 minutes would work.
Okay. And Maggie would like to know, how big is Chef Tony's board?
This board is about 16-inch square, probably 2 to 3 inches thick. It's a general heavy duty cutting board, but it worked well for what we're doing today. Like I said, you could go something very small like this if it's for a party of 2, or like, the slate I have over here. Again, there's lots of different things. As long as your board is flat, and again, that kind of helps you determine the size of the board. It's going to help you determine the number that you're going to serve. So this is a little bit crowded, but again, you don't want it super messy and confusing. So if you have a little bit more space, that's fine too.
Okay. So how long can cheese stay firm / edible once it's out on the board?
I would say as long as your temperature in the room isn't getting too warm, and if you can cover it, if your guests aren't here yet, it could be out here for hours.
Mm-hmm.
When back in the day doing brunches at the hotels and things like that, we do a massive cheese board. There was a massive meat board as well, and those brunches would go out, go on for 4 to 6 hours, and we go out and refresh as we needed, depending on what the cheese was doing. So it could be out there for a little bit.
Okay, here's another question for you, Chef. Do you just drizzle the honey on the cheese to eat it? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, and we were just talking about that. If you wanted to take like a little baguette and take a chunk of, or a little bit of the cheese, the Parmesan, and I would take a little piece of the prosciutto together. I mean, the prosciutto and the Parmesan work really well together. And even just the combination of a little bit of honey on either one of those components work fantastic. And then together, it's dynamite. So give it a try, just like that.
Yeah, and then here's another one. How do you know what goes together? I know you're a chef, but yeah, how do you know?
That is a great question. That's often asked. You can find a lot of things online. There's a book that we've used when I was teaching called Culinary Artistry, which had almost every single ingredient you could think of. And for example, prosciutto was in there, and then underneath it, there was like 20 ingredients that work well with it. And within there's probably 5 items that were bolded that work really well. So Parmesan was in there, honey was in there, melons were in there. So that's one way to kind of determine. And again, it's almost trial by fire. If you're not really used to a lot of different things, ask your local cheese expert, ask us. You go to the butcher shop, or if there's a charcuterie shop or the meat section, and they can often give you suggestions as well. But the smoky cheeses are often kind of not really considered, because if it's very heavily smoked, it could overpower everything else on the board. And also a general rule is you want to have a firm, hard cheese like a Parmesan, something softer and creamier like the Gouda and the cheddars, and then something very soft, like we don't have it here, but maybe like a brie or a goat cheese or something creamy and spreadable to kind of balance out the whole texture experience.
Okay, I'm going to kick it to Kyle now, our cheese grading expert, because someone wants to know what's the fanciest cheese we sell. And I think that's a perfect segue to our reserve series.
That's exactly where I was going to point them. So we do have, and that's Chef Tony's using our reserve series 14-month Parmesan tonight on his board. He was using the caves and stacking them up. Really, our reserve series is probably our, if you want to call it, the most top-notch, most premium product. A lot of those items, we have the 14-month Parmesan. We also have an 18-month minimum cheddar shred that we have as well. There's a lot of aged cheeses in our reserve series, and a lot of flavor is going to be packed there.
Mm-hmm. Why is Parmesan so darn good, Kyle? Why? It's just
Well,
amazing.
Most
so
people
salty.
don't. Parmesan actually has to age a minimum of 10 months. So most of the time, Parm is almost a year old, and that's intentional because it's a low moisture cheese, and you need to build that flavor with that product. So you age that product for months, sometimes years, and that just really brings out that flavor. And like I said, it normally starts off a little nutty, but you can start getting some fruity notes that start coming on. It's quite a very pleasant product. And I don't know of too many people that don't like natural Parmesan.
Yeah, Parmesan is so good. All right, thank you, Kyle. We got another question for Chef Tony. Do you put tongs or toothpicks out for your guests to get the items off the board? That's a good question.
That's a great question. And I put them on here and I didn't mention that, but thank you. And I have both. Some items like the olives that are, things that are kind of marinated, you don't want to grab those with tongs because it'd be dripping all over. A little pick would work great. A pick in the olives would also work great. And I do have little tongs for some smaller items like the cubes of cheese or even little triangles. Again, you don't want anybody touching the food, but again, you want to make it super easy for your guests to be able to get to it easily.
Mm-hmm. All right, so little tongs and perhaps toothpicks. Okay, so do we do tours? No, we unfortunately do not do tours at Sargento, but we can tell you it's a wonderful place. Could you also use like those little spoons and forks, Chef Tony?
Absolutely. Inside each one of these little cups, I've got these little demi-tasse spoons. They're plastic, disposable, but for something that's kind of liquid like the honey or the little jam you can see here, and even the little chunkier olive tapenade, I've got a small little spoon. So yeah, it's kind of fun. It's cute. I got the little Crocs, and there's a ton of stuff out there that you can kind of build off of and get ideas from.
Well, that's awesome. I want to bring in maybe Kyle one more time because people talk about tours, but we're headquartered in Plymouth, Wisconsin, and we have this wonderful Cheese Heritage Museum where you could kind of see how the beginnings of Sargento and other cheese companies in the area came to be. And Plymouth used to be the cheese capital of the world back in the early turn of the century, 1900s, correct, Kyle?
Yes, there's a lot of cheese companies and a lot of heritage in our local area. You got a lot of businesses that make cheese, convert cheese, package cheese. They used to just even sell cheese over in this area. And it was well known around the world that, at least in the United States, Plymouth, Wisconsin was the cheese capital.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually where cheese was traded as a commodity until it moved to Chicago, I want to say like in the 90s or so. So there's a lot of cheese that flows through the city of Plymouth. And so if you want to go to that cheese museum, you could put that on your tour. It's right in downtown Plymouth. It's awesome. They do serve up grilled cheese there. And some of our family owners, they were the ones that really spearheaded the effort to get that museum going. So I suggest if you want to have a tour, try some cheese. That's a really cute place to go if you're ever in Wisconsin or a neck of the woods. All right. So what is the cheese capital of the world now? It's Wisconsin, right? We're the biggest cheese producing state. Actually, know that stat. We produce about 3 billion pounds of cheese every year. So the dairy state for sure in the United States. Okay. All right. Are there any handouts that I missed since the beginning of the presentation? That's a good question. I do want to point out that if you're still on the line, we are going to surprise some folks. We're going to send people a Sargento branded cheese board for you to be able to enjoy and build your own charcuterie boards at your home. So hopefully you're one of our lucky winners. We're going to pull them at random. So watch for that. We're going to have a few winners for that. And somebody, Patty, she wrote, she's eaten her share of a gazillion pounds of cheese. I'd have to agree. Kyle, that's probably you too. I bet, I don't know if you can ever get sick of eating cheese because you, again, try like so many cheeses, but are you one of those people where you're like, I'm not going to eat cheese today, and then you end up eating cheese?
You do hit some walls at times. Normally you give it a few hours and you're ready to go back at it. But I don't know, a gazillion, Patty might have me beat there though.
Yeah. All right. Oh, can we purchase a cheese board? No, I'm sorry. Our cheese boards are mostly, we don't sell them at retail. They're really gifts that we have at our company store, which is not open to the public. But these are great questions, and I'm so glad that everybody is so engaged. And thank you for joining Small Bites. We will wrap up. We know how your time is so precious, and we're just so grateful that you were able to spend it with us. And again, we're hoping to have more of these events, and perhaps we'll be able to do them actually in person. But again, this virtual world means that we can come to you coast to coast. So thank you. We hope you enjoyed Small Bites this evening. That is it from us, the Sargento family. I'm Portia Young. You can connect with all of us on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear more from you and to keep in contact with you. Again, go to careers.sargento.com to check out our career site and follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook. And you can also follow us on Instagram at Sargento Family. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.